So we already made this video talking about how the Vancouver Canucks and Nikita Zadorov conversation wasn't really looking like there would be some sort of a positive conclusion here. How it didn't really look like both parties were on any sort of a similar plane. We had talked about that and more in today's update video as well. There seems to still be some sort of a divide between what the player wants and what the team would be willing to pay. So while it is not looking all too good for Nikita Zadorov, we have to go out there and make this very same video when it comes to yet another valuable Vancouver Canucks piece that happened to have been acquired by the team from the Calgary Flames, who exploded in the playoffs and had such an impact that now you have to say, hey, the team is a lot better with him on the team than without. But if he's going to be asking for the moon and the stars in terms of money, it's going to be very difficult to handle. This is what Taj went out there and tweeted in regards to Elliot Friedman's comments. He said this on the 32 Thoughts podcast about the Canucks and Elias Lindholm. I think the Canucks are willing to go in the 7x7 range. Oh my goodness. 7x7, ay. I'm just not sure that it's going to get it done. Taj then goes out there and replies saying, yeah, we need Lindholm to save the Canucks from themselves here and not sign that deal. That will be an absolutely horrible contract for the Canucks. It's crazy that they're even willing to offer that in the first place. Now, offer, that's a very interesting idea. Now, it's not directly, explicitly mentioned here, but I'm going to assume a few things. Let's just try to put ourselves in the position of the Vancouver Canucks. If the Canucks are willing to go to the 7x7 range, would it not be reasonable to conclude and say, hey, because this is the offer, they probably gave that number out to Lindholm, right? If they're willing to do 7x7, they probably let Lindholm and his camp know about that. They probably offered it, and because there's no contract signed right now, he probably rejected it, right? Elias Lindholm wants a lot of money. Let's say $8 million, because $7 million, not getting it done, even in the 7x7 range. With this in mind, you have to go out there and talk about some of the other conversations that have surrounded Lindholm in the past. The Win column went out there and tweeted this out. Elias Lindholm reportedly turning down both an 8-year by $9 million contract from the Flames earlier this season and a 7x7 contract from the Canucks. Man, that sure is a bold strategy. This dude wants the bank. And as we had talked about in a few videos prior to this one, Elias Lindholm rejecting the initial contract from the Flames and then going out there and performing, let's just say, pretty poorly in the 2023-2024 regular season with Vancouver, it costed him tens of millions of dollars potentially, because projected numbers are saying that Lindholm maybe is worth something in the $6 million range, maybe $6 million by 3 years, just tossing out a name there. So because he was offered this before, and now he is in that territory where his value isn't really all too high, this guy might have just put a whole bunch of millions, tens of millions of dollars on the table and lost all of that because he didn't want to sign this earlier. Now in Vancouver, you could say there's a similar thing happening here, but there's even more hesitance from the Vancouver fan base in comparison to the Calgary Flames fans. Because I'd say that when Lindholm was an 82-point guy, he was playing with Tkachuk, he was playing with Johnny Gaudreau, there was reason to believe that as a first-line center, him making $8 million wasn't the worst thing in the world, especially since he was proving that he could be that good. As the years went on, though, and as his contract continued to loom in the background, he had stopped producing in Vancouver in the regular season, and that's when his value really tanked. Now, he had a great playoffs, 10 points, 13 games played, he scored some clutch goals, the one in overtime against Nashville, and then he also got things started, I'm pretty sure. He scored the first goal of the entire Canucks playoff run against Nashville, plus he had a few assists against Edmonton, multiple goals against Edmonton in Game 3. He was a total beast. This guy, though, is not worth whatever this contract was at the beginning. $9 million, 8 years, sorry, no. He also is in that 7x7 range in the Vancouver perspective, but it's apparent that because there's no contract signed, he does not want that either. He wants still a little bit more. For what it's worth, though, I mean, if we go over to Big Head Hockey, Elias Lindholm in the postseason, 10 points, 13 games, second on the team in goals, second on the team in plus-minus, 51.2% in faceoffs, and the only center with more blocks and hits than him was Charlie Coyle of the Boston Bruins. He was one of the best deadline acquisitions of the year. And we all kind of knew that this was going to be one of the possible outcomes. We always recognized that Alvin and Rutherford understood the assignment. They knew this guy was being picked up as a rental and not necessarily as a super pristine long-term chip. Although, because he was so good in the playoffs, there would definitely be a desire to have him around and play as one of the three centers on this team. But then again, the same conversation that we had talked about with Bo Horvat brings itself back up. Even if the Canucks are willing to go 7x7, do you want to have one of your centers in EP making 11 mil? Do you want to have another center on the team making 8 in JT Miller, and your third center in Elias Lindholm making 7x7? That's a lot of money spent on your center core. Sure, it's not Toronto numbers, it's not 11, 11, 10, but it still is a lot of money to go into one spot, especially for a third-line guy, because if you have Miller, PD, Lindholm, one of them is going to be a third-line player, unless you just went with the Lotto line the entire way through, which I don't know if that's necessarily something that Rick Tocchet would want to continue exploring as the years go on. So 7x7, man, even Taj saying that the Canucks, they're kind of in a tough spot for handing this kind of a contract out and being willing to sign it. But I gotta go out there and say, when it comes to the way Lindholm played, I'm not even saying that he's not worth 7x7. It's just, positionally speaking, I don't know if it's really a comforting thought to give that much money to somebody who plays that role in the lineup. Sure, he was extraordinarily valuable, but can you guarantee this for 82 games played? Maybe. Just maybe, the injury situation with Lindholm, where he did get hurt and he did have a super long cold streak where he didn't score any points for Vancouver, presumably because of him being hurt. Maybe this was strictly due to him being hurt. Maybe he only had 2 points, in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 games or whatever it was, because he was hurt. And then, after taking some extended time off, that's when he started to pop off a little bit. He had scored some points to end off the regular season, and then he popped off against Nashville and Edmonton. Maybe it's really just because of the injury. If you wanted to bring that argument up, and you wanted to say, hey, if you give Lindholm a full off-season's worth of rest, you give him 82 games in 24-25, and he's on a Vancouver team where he is utilized on the power play and he's playing with Joshua and Garland, assuming of course Joshua comes back, maybe then he gets a 70-75 point season as a $7 million guy, as a first PK, first power play $7 million guy. Honestly, that kind of a profile, I'd say it's worth it, but it's not guaranteed. None of this is guaranteed. Just the idea of having 3 centers above $7 million each is already kind of perturbing, but at the same time, if the Canucks believe in Lindholm so much, I can understand why that's the number that they're willing to go to. It's just, he wants more. Plain and simple. So, at this point in time, we had said it's not looking good for Zadorov. Yeah, it's not looking good for Lindholm either, because he apparently wants a lot more money than what the Vancouver Canucks are willing to offer him, especially, if he goes to free agency, I have no doubt he's going to get more than this. Like, teams are going to look at his playoff performance, they're going to say, yeah, that guy was a monster, we want that guy for our team, we want that guy in our top 6, and he's probably going to get a boatload of money, especially if it's from, like, Boston or something. He's automatically better than Zacha and Coyle. If he's playing with Pastrnak, yeah, okay, I could understand why Lindholm would reject a 7x7 with Vancouver to get more money in Boston and play with one of the best goal scorers in the world. So, if you're a Vancouver Canucks fan who wants Lindholm to come back, it seems like it may not actually be a possibility here, but we'll see what happens, man. We still have ourselves a few more weeks to go until July 1st. For now, though, it's not looking too good for Elias Lindholm and the Vancouver Canucks. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.